So today I went to Harbor Freight and I got one of these machinist aprons. I actually have two, one for me and if somebody's working with me. They're under 10 bucks and it'll just keep the dust and you know, the sandings from sticking to your shirt, and every night it's shaking it out, washing them to get all that sawdust and flakes off. So for under 10 bucks at Harbor Freight, I got two of these today. Okay, so once again, today's goal is to bring this down to the thickness I want, okay, evenly, and put it on a backset jig. And then one of these days, we're going to fire harden it. And before we do, I want to make sure there's 6% moisture after I heat treat it. Let it sit for a couple days, and then I'm going to fire harden it and repeat the same thing. I'm going to keep on hydrating this wood. Hydrate, 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 like what I should be doing outside in the heat. And get it to like a 7-8% moisture. All right, hopefully like 8% moisture, and then tiller it. It'll be less of a chance of breaking. Okay, wish me luck. All right, I really want to get one of these perfect. All right, perfect bow, perfect tillering, perfect everything. Okay, today I'm continuing my adventures in Hop Hornbeam. Okay, I shaped out this stave, this bow blank from a stave yesterday. And as you can see, it's got dips and has to be straightened out. It'll be straightened out on the backset jig. And I still have to take it down a little to get the limbs nice and symmetrical for floor tillering, because I got some movement, but I want it to be a little better. Okay, and if you look at the back of these bows, it had deep depressions and bark that I took off. I don't think I violated anything. I just took it down. There's still some bark in there that I used a cabinet scraper and took out the best I can. Okay, and the reason why I'm having a problem with these, and they're cracking and it's blowing apart and it looks like it's really dry. All right, they have been really dry, even though I have one that I didn't show you that I was like a piece of scrap wood. I said, let me play with this scrap wood and make a bow and see if I can get it to bend. And if I can, with my tillering, it'll be quite an accomplishment. But I kind of knew it was going to break, because when I tested the moisture, it would read 0 in some spots and 4%. And I took a wet rag and I soaked this, not this one, but I soaked the other piece over and over and over again. And it still would, the next day would be 0 or 4%. And I told it when I had 4% and it was no good. I started flexing a little and poof, when it breaks, you see like that cloud of smoke, like dust. All right, so it was like tillering a potato chip. So what I got to do with this one is, once I get it on the back set jig and I fire harden it, I'm going to just do whatever I got to do. Keep saturating it with water and not tiller it until I get 6-7% on this. I'm just not going to do it. So I got the moisture meter here. It reads 0. Let's see what we got on this here. It reads 9%, all right? So I know that, after I fire harden it, I probably can, if I put enough moisture in. And I was told to take a wet towel, instead of just wiping it on with a rag. Take a wet towel after I wipe it good, wrap it in the wet towel, soaking wet towel outside, and leave it there for a little bit so that that moisture would drink up in the limbs. I'm going to try that. I'm going to do whatever it takes, but I'm not going to tiller it until I have enough moisture in this. Okay, let's check out the riser. 10%, okay, 10%. All right, so it does have enough moisture right now before I get it on the backset jig, heat treat it, or whatever. And that's the goal. Get it wet enough to tiller. Okay, I'm going to get it down to this pre-draw lines. I'm not going to do it too much because you don't need to hear all this noise. I have lines on both sides because I want to make sure that if one side came down, the other side will be even, and I'll check both sides back and forth. I want to make it a nice even thickness from tip to the fade outs, okay? So here's my bow design, okay? And I'll show you on the backset jig. Okay, I took it down to the lines, okay? This one does have another hump, and I kept it a little thicker there, okay? Although I did take off some material to kind of conform to that hump. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is take a lot of time and just make sure all the edges are rounded nice on the belly, and the belly is the part that faces you, and a little on the back too, so nothing lifts. Okay, I want nice round edges. I have 100 grit sandpaper here. And then once I get this nice and rounded, and I'm happy that it's rounded enough where nothing's going to lift, we're going to move to the backset jig. Okay, it's nice and rounded now, the edges, and without putting too much pressure. I got movement in the limbs. Okay, you got a little floor tillering going on, and next we're going to put it on the backset jig. All right, so I've only been doing this since December, so I'm a rookie at this. But a lot of people can just take like hickory and put pressure on the ends and bend it to conform to this jig. But this Hop Hornbeam is so strong and so tough that I believe that if I went to push this down and put it here, it would actually crack. So in order to manipulate this to conform to the backset jig, I have to stay here with a heat gun, and I'll heat it up the limbs. And as I heat it up, I'll be able to bend it down and clamp it. And it's going to take me, if I split it up between the outer limb and the inner limb, it'll take me at least a half an hour to get them to clamp up. All right, so just wanted to explain that you can't force this down. It'll break. And you got a twisted log and you want to straighten it out. Also, the other thing is, once I have the clamps on here and I go to fire harden it, I'll have, you see how the handles are here up? The handles will be all up. When I go to fire harden it, I'll take this jig off the trailer edge, lay it flat, and I'll have to reverse them. I'll have to reverse them so the screw ends are below. So when I hang it, they won't be in the fire. All right, the flat ends will be here, and I'll be able to hang it over the fire, over the coals, okay? So that's just what I wanted to talk about, and I'll show you as I'm heating it up. Very hot. Today's Halloween. It's in the mid-70s. It's absolutely crazy temperature today. So I'll get it going, and I'll show you. The other thing I want to show you is when you put these clamps on the jig and you're heating it up with a heat gun, make sure that the clamp is back here, so you don't have to go around the clamp. It's easier to go past these screw ends than have this facing you. Okay, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth like this, back and forth, and I'm going to set the timer on my phone for like 15 minutes. And I'm hoping in 10 minutes it'll soften up enough for me to get down and try to make it flush. Once I get this flush, then I'm going to move down and heat a little bit more down and down until it conforms to the jig. Okay, so that's it. Time to cook the wood and have me cook in this heat. It took 20 minutes to get this side heated enough to conform to the jig. And if you look from the back here, you'll see there's a space on the riser here. Okay, and what I did was I reversed these two clamps. Okay, they're facing me. So I can heat this way and get this side a little softer and see if I could tighten it and straighten out. Tighten it and straighten out the riser and get this flush. Okay, but the one thing I learned from heat chatting is sometimes you got to slow up, take a break, go in. So I don't want to rush nothing, and I'm going to go in the house and cool off and have a drink. and take a little break, and I'm going to come out and refresh. So this way I don't rush anything. I don't torque these screws down too much and crack anything. I'm going to go and take a break because, like he said, sometimes slowing up, you end up with a faster result by slowing up. Because it's so hot out, I took a well-needed break and hydrated, and now I'm fresh and I can look at it clear, and I'm not rushed to go inside and take a break or get it done with. And I'm going to use the heat gun now and heat up the backside of the riser and go into the fade outs and try to get that riser, the handle, to torque down straight. Okay, I said it several times, this Hop Hornbeam is a very tough, strong wood that don't want to bend or it'll crack. And even though this is heated up very well, you can see there's a little browning on the edges here. See the little browning on the edge there? I had a little lift in the riser. It's away from the limb, it's up, and I'll be able to sand this out. I got to sand this out and let this cool nice. I may take a wet rag to it first. I'm going to have to take it off, sand that out, and redo it for the and get it ready for fire hardening in a few days. But once again, there's no rush. If this thing don't get moisture back in it, I don't care what I got to do. If I got to soak the whole bow in water to get the moisture content up, I'll do it. Okay, so no more tillering at 4%. It don't work out. And you could just see what a tough wood this is to get to conform to anything. Okay, a little hand sanding, and we'll see. I'll show you what the results are. Okay, this is going to have to come off, and I'm going to have to hit it on the belt sander a little to get it down because it seems deep. I got to find out how deep this is. I have no choice. So we'll hopefully I'm going to have spring back. Hopefully it won't be that much, and hopefully I'll be able to get it to conform to the jig for fire hardening without heat treating. Now that it's been on for a while and it's all cool, and you get a tremendous amount of spring back because this is a tough wood. But we'll see what happens. Well, you can see I took off the clamps, and look at the amount of spring back. It's unavoidable with this wood. This wood is just so tough, and the only thing that makes it conform to the bend is that fire hardening. That's up to like 240 degrees, and wood combust at 300. But fire hardening is around 240 or so. Okay, so I'm going to take that, remove this. I'm going to take this out and put it back on. I just want to show you as I'm taking it out, you can see that crack is still feathered. It's still feathered there, so I have to take this down into the riser a little bit and do the same on this side. Take the material down a little into the riser. I drew a pencil mark just so you could see where this crack is feathered down into. And the idea is I have to eliminate this. Okay, I started out with a bigger riser than I actually needed. And if you look, you can see where I have the fade outs marked here and here. Okay, this is where they originally were. So what I did was on the belt sander, I moved it closer to eliminate that crack, that lift, okay? So I made the riser curve shorter, and then I took the limbs down even. So now I'll have a new fade out marks, okay, to put on here. Now I got to try and put it on and get it ready for fire hardening and see if it bends without heating and going through it all and maybe having it crack again. I put the big center clamp on the way I originally had it, just so that would clamp that riser flush to the mount. And then because I guess some of the heat was accepted by the wood, I was able to get it to conform. Now you'll see there's big spaces here or whatever. As I'm fire hardening this, those clamps will get so loose they'll want to fall off. And as it gets hotter, those couple that have the space, I will be able to tighten up and get to go flush probably within the first half hour, fire hardening it. And this big clamp now, we're going to take off now that the other limbs are there. Okay. And we're going to get this one here set for fire hardening too. I was able to take off that C-clamp and put this one so it's the right way. So now as this hangs down for fire hardening, none of the screws are in the way. And as it does heat up, I'll be sure to, every 15 minutes or so, just check around that riser and tighten these up to make sure that that handle, as it heats and softens up, conforms to this backset jig. Because once you fire harden it, it'll stay that, it'll take that shape and stay there. Unlike a heat treating that you saw sprung back. Okay, so next what I'm going to do, all I'm going to do is get a wet rag. I'm going to soak this down several times, and I don't know when I'm going to fire harden this, but I want to make sure moisture gets back in this just from the heat treating. Okay, let's take some readings after it's been heat treated. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, so just to show you, when you heat treat with a heat gun, all the moisture comes out. And this I have gotten 4% readings on this. They usually said 0 is 5 or below, but I've got 4%. So on this particular one, I'll say that 0 is around 4% or less. Okay, so before we do anything, wet rag this. It's going to get soaking wet. I'm going to put it on the back deck and make sure it gets hydrated. All right, and when it comes time to fire harden it, I'm not even going to fire harden it until it's got 6% in there. Okay, to some of you guys making bows, this might seem a little crazy, but I got to tell you what, this wood don't want to cooperate. It's very dry. It's before you start it, you don't want to drink up that much moisture, which I guess is a good thing. But once you heat treat it, there's 0 moisture. Okay, 0. And I've wet this like this here on my other bows 2-3 times and came back and it was 0. Okay, so this process is going to go on. I'm outside, I don't care. I got to be honest, if the pool was open, maybe I'd be in the pool with it floating around, who knows. All right, but here we go. We're going to get it good and saturated. And like I said, you may think, oh, that guy's out of his mind. But guess what? You know, you saw you saw in one of my videos. You didn't see the other one, that my experimental. But when it broke, poof, dust. And that's because I tilled it. Some was 4%, some was 0. You never till her unless you're getting like 8% moisture. Okay, and I'm not even going to fire harden this unless I get, you know, some moisture back in it. All right, so that's it for now. I just wanted to show you me soaking it down, and I'm going to soak this down several times today. And then what we'll do is I'll show you with the meter what the results are. But don't be afraid when you heat treat any kind of wood, put moisture back in it. Help it get a jump start before it acclimates to the room and the moisture content in a room. There's absolutely nothing wrong when you have it on a jig and you heat treated it to jump start, help get some moisture back in here, okay? And that's it. All right, so we'll check the moisture later and soak it up later. Okay, I had saturated this twice with the soaking wet towel, and we're going to see what the moisture is. Okay, we got 9.8. The riser has 8.3. We got 10 in the limb over here. Okay, so soaking this, really soaking it good twice with the washcloth. Put moisture in. Now it's going to go in the house and stay overnight, and we'll check it, and when I have time, I don't know if it's tomorrow or whenever it's going to be, we're going to fire harden this. And when I do fire harden it, I'll be able to tighten up the clamps and get it to conform to the jig even a little better. All right, every 15 minutes. So that'll be the end of this part here. This will be the conclusion of this part, part 1. And part 2 will be fire hardening it, tillering it, and we're going to be careful tillering it. And then we'll shoot it. Hopefully we'll shoot it.